Don't do that.
Me too.
Why not? Lemons are great. Take a bite of the lemon. I would if I had a lemon.
So my good friend Yuko.
I'm so sorry.
Fuck is a Yuko?
No, you're gonna come over here. I'm forcing you to do this.
Oh fuck! Yay, we're making an example of Yuko. I love this.
So Yuko, I need you to pretty please fly up to me a little bit and stand.
Oh no.
Stand?
Stand.
I can become bigger if you want to. Or should I just... Okay.
It doesn't really matter. So this is my good friend Yuko. Say hi to the camera. You're getting pranked right now. Anyway, so one specific type of induction that is very, very cool and very, very easy to do on everyone that you don't like.
Okay.
This is a bit of stage hypnosis. This is known as the slot machine induction. A lot of stage hypnotists tend to do it because it's very, very cool. Now, what I want you to do is, when I tell you to, you're going to raise your arm. Please don't Hitler salute. I want you to raise your arm.
But you do know that like I'm really hard to hypnotize. You know this,
You're really
right?
hard? I'm sorry.
Good for you, buddy. Honestly, you stay erect.
So
Yuko, stay
the
up.
idea of being hard to hypnotize is a lie because I did it in a very crowded room out of nowhere. So get that out of your head. You remember the quicksand pit. The harder it is to fall down, the easier it is to kind of end up going down into it. The reason for that is the more you struggle around, the more the sand kind of tends to slowly pull. And just because I explained that, it's a lot easier, and you feel a little bit more fuzzy now. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to do, when I tell you to raise your hand. When you raise your hand, or when I tell you to, raise your hand. When I tell you to start squeezing your hand, you're going to make a fist with your hand. And the moment you make a fist with your hand, you're going to squeeze as tight as you can. Please don't break your controller. And the moment you do, you're going to feel a steel bar starting from your wrist, going through your elbow into your shoulder. A kind of steel rebar, you know that thing in concrete, the steel bar to make it. Anyway, the entire idea is this rebar is going to completely stiffen out your arm. It's going to be completely impossible for you to bend your arm. And the reason for that is there's going to be a steel bar in your arm. So on the count of 3, I want you to squeeze your hand as tight as you can. So with 1, 2, and 3, squeeze, 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 tight, 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 tight. As you start to begin to squeeze your hand, you'll start to notice that your hand will start to kind of lock up, and you'll start to feel that steel bar all the way from your wrist all the way to your elbow, straight into your shoulder. And if you try right now to kind of bend your arm, try and bend your arm right now, as you'll notice, you are completely unable to bend your own arm. Even I think you can do it. You're quite a strong guy. Go ahead and try and bend your arm. See, you can't even bend your own arm. It's very, very strange how you can't do that right now. So essentially, the moment that I kind of bend your arm, you're going to fall into a kind of trance-like state, and all that's going to happen is 3, 2, 1, you're going to fall and down. It's very, very interesting how just because you can sit down and listen to someone to such an intense degree, your mind can almost completely fuzz and haze out. It's very, very interesting how just because a lot of people are watching, it's a little bit harder for that to happen. But just because you are an amazing subject, you manage to make it happen immediately without question. And with that being said, you can feel absolutely amazing the moment you open your eyes and notice everything around you with 3, 2, 1, and sunshine. Hello.
My neck hurts, so...
You can go sit down.
My neck hurts.
Anyway. Hello. So the reason why the induction actually works the way that it does is that when a subject is actually sitting there squeezing their hand as possibly tight as it can go, there is
physically no way for the subject to bend their arm. To reassure the subject that they can sit down and actually bend their arm actually causes them to subconsciously think that they can bend their arm. But however, the subject is tightly squeezing their hand so much that they can't bend their own arm. So by reassuring the subject they can do this, you create a very quick, oh no, why isn't this working kind of feeling inside of them, which causes them to kind of panic and listen to you more as they are sitting there in disbelief that you're actually hypnotizing them. They can't bend their own arm. There's a steel bar in their arm. And because of this, they become slightly more susceptible, which allows the very next part to happen where you essentially grab their wrist and bend their arm for them by pulling it down like a slot machine.
So stand right there. Right there.
Okay.
Kind of look at me. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your hand. As you take your hand, I want you to kind of face it towards you, and I want you to look at your own hand. Okay? But don't do that. I lied to you. I don't want you to do anything.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so you start this induction with a handshake.
Okay. With this hand? With my right hand?
Put your hand down. That's not how you start a handshake.
Okay.
Anyway, I need you to show me the base of your hand. Can you show me the palm of your hand? What I want you to do is while you're looking at your hand, confused. I want you to kind of look at this one specific spot on your hand right here. And as you stare at that one specific spot on your hand, I want you to kind of stare at it. Usually in real life, what we would do is we'd want someone to kind of look at their own hand and tell them to look at the texture of their hand, kind of looking at the stripes and lines of their hand. But since we're in this VR game, we don't really have stripes of your hand. So what I want you to do is I want you to kind of stare at that one specific vertex. As you stare at that one specific vertex, what I want you to do is I want you to kind of really look. And as you start to look, you'll start to notice that you'll actually begin to start seeing the lines and edges of the polygons that make up your hand. Maybe if you look at the kind of specific outline and you start to kind of really stare at your hand, you'll start to notice exactly how it works and the way it kind of renders specifically within the Unity project known as VRChat. As you begin to stare and kind of kind of focus, you'll start to notice, just because that you're staring, you'll start to notice that this is the most amount of focus you have ever put into anything. Inconsequently, this is also the exact amount of focus an individual needs if they want to drop into a hypnotic trance, which is the entire reason why what you're going to do is the more you start to focus, the more you'll start to notice that you're going to focus a lot more. It's almost as if the natural amount of focus begins to kind of skyrocket the more and more that you stare. As you begin to do this, you'll start to notice that the more you kind of stare, the more your thoughts begin to kind of slow down because you're focusing so intensely at looking and studying at your own hand. And just like that, in 3, 2, 1, what we're going to do is we're going to relax so intensely that we're going to fall into a trance with 3, 2, 1. And just like that, just by focusing and staring at something extremely important to quite literally anyone, also known as their hands, someone is very easily able to enjoy a nice hypnotic experience. And just like that, what I want you to do now that you've enjoyed this extremely enjoyable experience, is I want you to the moment you kind of open your eyes and notice everything around you, you're going to feel a lot better than you did the moment you decided to enter this room and check out the little lecture that I was hosting. And with that, 3, 2, 1, sunshine. Hello.
Ooh.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hello. Hey. How are you? Are you doing awesome? How's the weather? I don't care.
I'm great. I'm okay.
I lied.
Well then.
You're awesome.
What?
Hey, once again, I'd like to kind of describe and explain as to why this kind of handshake induction tends to work on specifically people. The way I kind of developed this induction was I had read a book by the title of Reality is Plastic, where the writer had developed his own Erikson type kind of handshake induction, where he would get someone to kind of stare at their hand and get their hand to very, very slowly reach their face. The moment it reached their face, they would fall into a trance. When I had kind of sat down and looked at my own hand while I was reading this book, I noticed the actual amount of natural focus just staring at my own hand could cause, which had led me to believe that if I could very subtly make someone kind of understand what it means to focus very, very hard while also staring at their own hand, I could probably very, very easily drop someone who knows how to focus very, very intensely. So the kind of development of this induction or the kind of performance of this induction goes as follows. You want someone to kind of look at their own hand during very, very quickly after a handshake. This is to kind of allow their mind to kind of go into an automatic process of kind of listening to you and doing as you say. Or rather, it gets them into an automatic process that allows you to take advantage of the fact that their brain is almost on autopilot. You want to kind of shake up this kind of autopilot by telling them to look at their own hand. As they begin to look at their own hand, you want them to kind of stare at the kind of lines in their hand. I was doing this in VR, so I had to use a specific point. While getting someone to stare at the lines of their hand and study their hand, what you really want them to do is, I usually describe the field of medicine as my quote-unquote useless jibber-jabber to allow them to focus. This kind of quote-unquote useless jibber-jabber that I use is meant to be very, very subtly something that you can describe to allow them to focus even more, usually as a factual piece of information. This useless jibber-jabber that I use on a normal basis is describing the field of medicine and how we as humans begin to kind of become so obsessed with staring and studying the human body, we created an entire field based around it. This is known as the field of medicine. We used to take soldiers off of battlefields once they were dead, drag them to an operating table, and skin them so we could stare at their own muscles. This is no different from you being absolutely fascinated and studying your own hand, something that you don't entirely get to do very often, and now that you are, it can be so relieving to kind of stare and look at something that you have not actually had the time of doing before, not really sitting down and staring at your own hand. And just because you're staring at your own hand, you might notice this is the most amount of focus you have ever put into anything. And because we're able to go along that specific line, we get the subject's focus so intense, we can tell them that the moment you snap your finger or you do a simple action, they're going to feel as if they're relaxed so much it almost feels like they're going to fall asleep. Thank you very much for watching this video to the very, very end. This was a specific seminar that I held a couple weeks ago that I had not actually prepared for, well, not prepared enough for, and I will be hosting more of these in the future where I have actual notes, and I'm going to try and teach people a lot more about Neuro Linguistic Programming and how to use it as a hypnotist to better yourself and kind of subtly manipulate a subject into going into a very calm and relaxed state so you can be able to much more easily perform hypnosis. Thank you very much and have a very awesome day.